Trek Geeks is proud to have Fansets as our presenting sponsor. Stay tuned for release information and a special discount code good on your next order at fansets.com. Fansets. Our pins have character.
Hi, this is Alexander Siddiq, Dr. Julian Bashir on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you are listening to the biggest little show this side of the Gamma Quadrant. It's the Trek Geeks podcast with Bill Smith and Dan Davidson.
From the Where Are They Now department at Podfleet Command. It's the biggest little show this side of the Alpha Quadrant and the flagship of the Trek Geeks podcast network. Greetings to you all, humans, Klingons, Vulcans, Tellarites, and aliens alike, and welcome to the Trek Geeks podcast. I'm your co-host, Bill Smith. This is episode number 301. Wow. We're getting into the next 100 episodes, and it's exciting to do. We've been mothballed for a little bit, but more about that in a second as I welcome my slightly tolerable co-host. I'd love to say that I've missed these weeks without him. I won't. He's Dan Davidson. Dan, welcome back, buddy.
Thanks, man. I've missed it. I'm very excited to be back. It's been I won't even say it, but it's been a while, and I'm glad to be here. And it's exciting to be talking about Star Trek again, and not worrying about everything else going on in the world.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
We talk about this in the outtake a little bit, but we didn't expect to be here at the end of June to only have done 2 brand spanking new episodes on the air. So we thank everybody for hanging with us and for all the kind words that people have sent in. 2023 has been a bear, and it's a year that I'm sure we'll be happy to see behind us in 6 months or so.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Here we are. And to continue with what you just said, we've both been going through some tough times recently. And when I was going through my tough stretch of a few months with my mom, I got to say, one of the things that I really just could not believe was the outpouring of support from Patreon members and listeners and friends on Facebook, all just sending their best for, hope everything's going well. I can't tell you all how much that meant to me during that difficult time. It really was amazing. And it is just proof of how the Star Trek family is a family. And I just want to pass along my thanks to every single person.
Absolutely. There is no other fandom like Star Trek fandom on the planet. And that becomes something I'm reminded of every single day.
Yeah.
In addition to all the great checking in people did with Dan, people have been reaching out to me as well. And I am extremely grateful for everybody that has, and even just the people who've been rediscovering or discovering the podcast for the first time, because we still hear about brand new listeners just about every week.
Yeah.
And why people want to suffer through the first 300, I don't know. But here we are. 301, baby. We're starting, we're working toward 400.
I know. And I gotta look at it this way, man. I know I've had my stretch of bad time in the year. You're having some right now, but I got to say, I feel like I actually feel like there's a little bit of a weight lifted off my shoulders with everything that has been going on. It's not something that is continuing at this point. So I'm really looking forward to getting back into the swing of things and being able to record on a more normal basis. And to be honest, I got to say this. I think I said it to you once, which I would not have said before to the listeners. I didn't watch a lot of Star Trek during that time, because even though I view Star Trek as a great escape, especially during my tumultuous times back in 1999 and 2000, I just didn't have the energy to sit and watch an episode very often. So it was it's something that I've missed and I'm definitely looking forward to doing it more and sitting in this chair with this microphone, talking to you and telling our listeners how stupid I am and how great looking you are and all that fun stuff.
And mellifluous. Don't forget the
mellifluous tonage.
We are going to guarantee that we are going to do 5 brand new episodes straight back to back before Vegas in 5 weeks.
Yes.
So that's happening. So we'll at least we'll get a total of 7 new episodes in on the air before we go to Viva Las Vegas.
I like
baby.
that. And if we really want to do it, and so that we can have a little bit of a break, let's record 7 episodes in a row one day, and then we can just release them once a week. I could not deal with looking at your face for 7 straight hours in this on this computer screen.
Shut up. Why do you try?
I didn't. That just flew right out. Didn't even have to think
plus,
about it.
We're going to have mobile gear in Vegas. And we're going to be recording at our booth in Vegas during the con at various points. So that should be interesting to see what comes up, because we haven't really decided exactly what we're going to record there. But who knows?
We're going to wing it.
May do some, person on the street type stuff. You never know.
Just, Frakes walks by. Hey, Frakesy, come on over here. Let's talk.
Yeah, right. I dare you.
Ooh, challenge accepted.
I dare you. He's going to be like, who the F are you?
That's probably true.
Yeah, that's very true. And yeah, Dan mentioned that I had some stuff going on. I'm happy to disclose it. I honestly don't mind people knowing. I got laid off less than a week ago from my job of 8 years from the company that, we both worked for up until about a handful of days ago. Yep. And you're still there. So, but yeah, so I am,
I'm not sure who's the benefactor in that though.
I know. I think I made out a little better.
Mine have. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It was, people have always been asking me, did you see it coming? No, then it probably wouldn't be a layoff.
Right. True. But I'll tell you right now, I'm seeing mine coming, because I bet you anything they're not done. So
yeah, that's probably true. Yep. And it's a sad state of business today, but it is what it is.
That's right.
You can pour your heart and your soul into a job and try to make things a little better than how you found them. And this is what happens in the end. Mm-hmm. So the more I stay in technology, the more I realize people leave one of 2 ways, unless you're at vice president level.
Right.
Those people retire.
Yes.
The rest of us worker bees, we either leave to do something we really want to do or that we're passionate about, or we get laid off.
Right.
And that's just the realistic, observation. So on to bigger and better things. I'm sure that there will be something else soon, and I will guarantee I will make it the best thing ever, because that's what I'm going to do.
That's the way to look at it, man. And I'm sure that wherever you go, they will be the better for it.
Well, thank you. Speaking of the best thing ever, let's do a little business with America, you and I. What do you think?
That's the best thing ever.
Your face is the best thing ever.
That's the best. Okay, that I'm going to make my ringtone.
For me to poop on. Sorry, I'm quoting Triumph the Insult Comic Dog there. Please don't at me. Dan, of course, we want to take this moment to thank our friends at Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of Trek Geeks.
Absolutely. I have missed them. As always, they continue to produce high-quality pin after high-quality pin, and their latest releases are Fansets-tastic. Right now, from the amazing universe of Trek pin line, you can get Dr. Hugh Culber from Discovery, Jayla from Star Trek Beyond, Captain Picard from The Next Generation, and Gwyn from Star Trek Prodigy, all right now at fansets.com. Additionally, the beautiful Gold Delta from Picard Season 3 is now available in mini form, great for ties and lapels. And the one and only Enterprise D is now available as the latest release in the Master Ships collection.
And I'm going to let you in on a little secret, Dan. The folks at Fansets are working on some top secret stuff for the upcoming convention in Las Vegas, but sadly, none for you.
Oh.
So suck it. So you know what I'm going to say next, friends? Get on over to fansets.com. Get all those pins that Dan just mentioned, like the Jayla and the Captain Picard and the Gwyn and Dr. Culber. Put those all in your cart and then add a few more. And then at checkout, use the special discount code Trek Geeks for 10% off your entire order. That's Trek Geeks in all capital letters with no spaces. And of course, don't forget, when you spend more than $30 at fansets.com, you will automatically get free shipping in the United States.
Fansets. Our pins have character, and we thank our friends at Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of Trek Geeks.
Well, Dan.
Bill.
It's amazing that we're actually going to talk Star Trek for the first time in a long time.
I know. I love the Millennium Falcon.
I do too. The Serenity, I love that ship. No, nobody loves Firefly. God, that joke never gets old.
It doesn't.
8 years. 8.5 years. Joke doesn't get old. I know, I'm very old, I assure you.
Yes.
So, we've wanted to talk about this episode for a while. And we've put it off and we've had to reschedule many times. But this week we're going to consider the premiere episode of Star Trek Discovery, the Vulcan Hello. And I think it's important to look at as we, deal with the news that the upcoming season of Discovery will be its last. Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting to jump back and look at that original pilot with fresh eyes. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. That was another thing that's happened over the course of this year is that we found out that Discovery season 5 was, instead of it being season 5, it was changed to the final season of Discovery. So this will be it. So it is interesting that we're going to go back and look at this episode. And when I rewatched it, really for the first time in several years, just last week, I tried to do it two ways. I tried to do it as if I had never seen seasons 1 through 4. And I tried to do it remembering all the things that we've seen in 1 through 4 to see how it would hold up. And I really found it interesting how I was reviewing things in my head as this episode played out. I'm really excited to talk about this because, as we've talked about when Discovery first came out, this is the first live action Star Trek that we got in a real long time. And we were super excited for it. Yeah,
it debuted September 24th, 2017. So 12 years after Enterprise went off the air. It's the first of Discovery's episodes. The teleplay by Brian Fuller and Akiva Goldsman. The story by Brian Fuller and Alex Kurtzman, and directed by David Semel.
Yes.
I remember watching it with great anticipation because this was the first time since 1969.
Yes.
That Star Trek would appear on network television. Mm-hmm. Now, before people say, well, Next Generation was in syndication. It may have appeared on affiliates for networks like ABC stations or NBC stations or whatever across the country. But this was on CBS television in prime time. And that was jaw-dropping for all of us old school fans.
Another interesting tidbit tying back to the original series, which I just recently found out about. This was the first episode of live action Star Trek since Turnabout Intruder that did not involve Rick Berman.
Oh, wow.
And that's kind of incredible when you think of all the Star Trek that took place between Turnabout Intruder and Discovery. That's a lot of Star Trek. And it was the first one that did not have him since Turnabout Intruder.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I will say one thing, and I like to tease you about this, but it is something that I wish had not happened. I got to go out to LA for this premiere. And one of the things that strikes me, and I know we're going to get into the episode, but this is the first thing that strikes me, is the cinematic of this television show. The very first scene when we see the galaxy pretty much through Takuma's eyes and that pullback so that you get to see his face. That just was the opening moments of what was going to be an unbelievable production in terms of special effects and scope and size. And that's one of the things that stood out to me right from the get-go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that opening tease with Klingons that look very different. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's just get this out of the way now. Okay.
Okay.
Love the new Klingons or hate the new Klingons. They're the Klingons.
Right.
I'm not a fan of the way they look.
Yep. If I recall correctly, I was like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm fine with it. I like them. As I have gone through the years with Discovery and other Trek, and especially now with the beginning of season 2 of Strange New Worlds, I'm not a big fan of the way that they made this change. Now, granted, they're Klingons. You just said it is Star Trek canon. They're Klingons. Nobody can argue that. If you want to be pissed at the way they look, fine. They're still Klingons. Sorry, but it's just that little niche that they did for this series, and they did it, and It is what it is.
And that's not to trash the makeup artists or designers in any way, because ultimately this was approved by, at the time, I'm sure Brian Fuller and Alex Kurtzman.
Right.
So, if people want to blame, that's probably where you want to look. But I don't mean to slight the makeup artists at all.
No, because they're fantastic. Love them or hate them, the makeup, the design is pretty spectacular.
On screen, they do look amazing as aliens.
Yes, they really do. Yeah.
And Takuma looks. It's been a while since I've done that. Looks menacing.
He does.
He really looks menacing. And, he starts off with this speech, and that it's going to go down before too long, because Takuma and the Klingons that are falling under his banner are looking for war.
Exactly. We come in peace. I mean, it's a great opening. I was going to do the whole beginning that he does in Klingon, but I didn't memorize that. Just the English part. But they are looking for a fight, and they're going to find it one way or another. They're going to get you. I'm sorry, I don't want to be quoting Blondie while we're doing the show.
I don't want you to be quoting Blondie either. God.
Let's get into this right away, too, because we just talked about the look of the Klingons. We wanted to get that out of the way. It is really a shame that in this episode of Discovery, the first one we've seen in years of Star Trek, that they kill off two great characters right off the bat. Takuma and the captain. It just really is a shame. And I will bet you, based on the popularity of Giorgio and everything that happened afterwards, that they wish they hadn't done that. I really do.
I wish they hadn't done it, because I really wanted more of Captain Philippa Giorgio.
Yeah.
Because just in the bit that we saw, there was so much there, and she seemed like such a great character.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I mean, when she's on the bridge, and Burnham says, "Is this really necessary?" And she's like, "It's not necessary, but I do like it, or I do enjoy it." I'm like, wow, she's really going to hand it right back to Burnham. Like, too bad.
Agreement from my senior officers. Note the date and time.
I love that she's so comfortable in that chair already, that she has the makings of a great leader. In my mind, and I think I said this in Discovering Trek when we first recorded it, 6 years ago.
Wow.
That I know, right? That I could see Giorgio being kind of an inspiration to somebody like Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah.
Just in the way she handles things, with the way that she deals with her crew. I can absolutely see that, because, we find out later she's one of Starfleet's greatest captains.
You get a sense with her in just this one episode that she's more than just a captain. She doesn't have that distance factor that we've seen from so many captains over the years in Star Trek. She's a teacher. She is very close to Michael. She has a good time with her crew. Now, we've seen that a little bit with Pike in Strange New Worlds. We didn't see it with Kirk. We didn't see it with, we did a little bit with Kirk, but we didn't see it really at all with Picard. And Janeway had to really had a balancing act. This was the first time, especially that first scene in the desert when they're walking and around and talking, how she's still teaching Michael stuff after all these years, and how by learning these things, she can become a great captain. I thought that was a great aspect of Philippa. And we got to see Philippa more, the Emperor version. It just wasn't the same. As great as it was to see that acting, it just wasn't the same as what we could have gotten with the prime Philippa, so to speak.
Well, and let's talk about that opening sequence with Giorgio and Burnham, where they're walking through that desert. That was filmed in the country of Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember when they announced that, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're gonna be kidding me. They actually sent resources across the ocean to Jordan to film a scene for a Star Trek TV show, which
was only going to be 5 minutes long.
Unreal.
Yeah. Yep.
It's never happened before, and it sure as hell isn't going to happen now.
Yeah, you can say that again. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a good introduction scene for these two characters, I think, also. We don't know, of course, we don't know any of the history with Michael and her and how she grew up and the relationship that these two have, other than being a first officer and a captain. But it really is a great opening scene. Now, the one thing that I love about this scene, but also hate about this scene, is the whole walking the Delta. You know, we can argue about that until we're blue in the face. That's just, okay, the wind's blowing, there's a storm. That Delta ain't going to survive, yo. It's going to be blown away. Yeah. But it still was great to see.
It made for great television.
It did. It really did.
I agree that it would not have lasted.
It wouldn't have lasted. And see, that's something that we also didn't get a lot in Star Trek over the years. A little bit more with Voyager, but not is a starship coming down from orbit and being right there in front of you in the sky instead of being in space. And that was kind of a cool little opening scene to see the Shenzhou for the first time.
Especially when there's a storm coming.
Uh-huh. They came right through it.
Sand storm.
Well, they have deflectors.
Yeah. They got deflectors. I have to say, I love the design of the Shenzhou.
Yeah, especially the bridge.
I love the underslung bridge. Are you kidding me?
Cool.
I always wondered why the bridge was deck 1 and on top. Because if I'm like
Dangerous.
the enemy, I'm going to aim for that.
Yep.
I'm not going to aim for the engines. I'm not going to aim for, engineering. I'm going to aim for where the orders are coming from.
Right.
That's the bridge.
And it looks great. It looks fantastic. And especially it's the first time we've seen this modern bridge, even though it's in the past. But when the camera comes through the glass, which is a great special effect in that opening scene. Yeah. And then you get to see the space of that bridge and how shiny and dark, which is something that comes up more and more in Star Trek these days. It just looks fantastic. I loved it. I love it.
I think it has to be dark to look that good for today's televisions, honestly.
I agree.
People are going to say, well, what about Star Trek Picard? Well, yeah, but it was still lit differently than it was in the 80s and 90s. I think that with these displays that they're using, I think it has to look different, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And honestly, I worked in an operations center for a long time, one that had lots of screens and a giant video wall, and you needed it a little dark in the room, so you weren't getting glare off the monitor all the time.
Yep.
So I get it. I get it.
I'm good with it.
So this episode and the next one, Battle of the Binary Stars, are actually part of a 2-episode prologue.
Right.
By the way, also something that wouldn't happen today. It's not even, we're just cracking or scratching the surface with Discovery. We're not even getting into the actual series arc. This is a story that they thought was important to tell before all of that.
Yeah. It's interesting that we only really get to see 4 characters when you think about it in strong TV presence. We get Saru, we get the captain, we get Burnham, and we get T'Kuvma. That's really all that there is. And you do see Sarek for a few minutes, but that's really the focus. You never see the ship that the show is named after. You don't even see the Discovery. And it is interesting that we do get, a lot of times there'll be like a 4-part comic book series to do the prologue of a new Star Trek show, which we've seen before. So it was kind of interesting that we did get this, and it works because I can say that if we started with episode 3 as the first episode, a lot of people would be scratching their heads because if they had like a little scroll thing like Star Wars saying what had happened in the Klingon War and she was arrested, everybody would be like, huh, what? You yell shark and we got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July. I mean, it's one of those type of moments.
Are you quoting Joss?
I am, yes.
Oh God, I hate you so much. Not only does this pilot look good, but it actually moves the action along, or the story along even, at a very nice pace. I was amazed at how well constructed the pace was for this episode when I went back and watched it again for the first time a couple of months ago. That scene where she encounters the Klingon torchbearer on the outer hall is really great, but it's almost a little too good.
Yeah, that's one thing. I love that scene. If there's anything that I have to take from that and be like, okay, I'm really not too sure about this, is just the whole ship being made out of coffins. That's kind of like a strange aspect of what's going on. I mean, granted, we don't know a lot about the Klingons, thoughts of afterlife, but and the gigantic size of that ship is also something that I was just kind of like, wow. The torchbearer scene was awesome. He's menacing. I like how the computer was able to recognize the Klingon logo, or the Delta, so to speak, and oops for Burnham for hitting the wrong thruster, I guess, because maybe if she hit the backwards thruster, none of this would have happened. But she hit the wrong one and killed the guy.
Well, I mean, he clearly was there to challenge her.
True.
I mean, as we said at the beginning, is the Klingons are looking for a fight. That's why he's there.
Right.
and they're going to, do whatever they can to start this war. I have to say that I think that it could have been Burnham on that hull. It could have been Giorgio. It could have been Saru.
Yeah, it could have been anybody.
Either way, somebody was dying on that hull.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? That ship was not the ship that had all the sarcophagus and coffins. It was the other ship, the sarcophagus ship. This was the torch ship, correct? If I remember correctly, because the wings went up and everything, kind of like the scimitar. Yeah. So my mistake on that, but it looked old and creepy.
Since you brought up the sarcophagus ship, can I really say one thing? I don't think the Klingons would do that.
Thank you for saying that.
Because to the Klingons, the body is just a shell.
Yeah, and they're going to stall.
Why would they adorn their the hull of their ship with a bunch of coffins from dead Klingons? I don't understand.
From a long stretch of time. They said, I think she said there were hundreds of years, or did she say thousands? I can't remember. Thousands wouldn't make sense, but there's a lot. There's some old Klingons there from the state of decay, I think they said. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that is kind of a weird notion. I think, it made it look kind of cool, so maybe that's why I decided to do it, just because it would be a great visual and a great talking point, because here we are talking about it. But yeah, it does seem to go against other things that we have learned about the Klingons through the ages of Star Trek.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure, and that's a minor thing too to me, right? Like, I'm not sitting here going, "Oh, this episode sucks because of that."
Right.
I'm not saying that at all. I think this is a great episode of Star Trek. It brings us to the beginning of the non-episodic era of Star Trek, where we can kind of look at this episode in a vacuum, but the story's not over.
Yeah.
There's still
not by a long shot.
No, or at least for this aspect, for this story, the Battle at the Binary Stars, there's still one more episode to complete this part of the saga, if you will.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can only look at what they show us in this episode. But let's go to Burnham for a second, because this is the first time in Star Trek that the captain has not been the central figure of a Star Trek series.
Correct.
That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like that aspect.
I love it. The
captain doesn't have to be the central figure.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happens that we got an amazing talent in that role with Sonequa Martin Green as Burnham. She is amazing.
It's amazing because I was watching Walking Dead at the time that this all happened, when it was announced that she was going to be in it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, will she be able to do this? Because I see what she's doing in Walking Dead. is that going to work right in Star Trek? Oh man, was I wrong. Because I've always loved Sonequa in this role. Now, granted, I know that there's been time that I've cried about it. I say that tongue in cheek about the fact that she's always so emotional in some of the seasons, but that's all under the rug now. I think she just does a fantastic job. It's obvious that she felt that this may be her most important role of her career that she's ever had, and I personally feel that she loves this role, and you can tell right from that first scene on the planet they filmed in Jordan. She really loves it, and I love how she's able to play with different aspects. Just a second ago, I talked about the emotions that she shows, but in the beginning of this series, she's trying to be more Vulcan because she was raised on Vulcan, and you can see that. She talks like a Vulcan and being specific about time with minutes and hours and seconds, and it's kind of neat that later on in this episode, she's enjoying that spacewalk, and Philippa actually says she's having fun. And it's interesting. That's something that the crew probably doesn't see very often, other than when she's bickering with Saru, which is another topic for in a few minutes. But I think Michael is a great character for the franchise, and just the fact itself that she's not the captain at this point, I think, is an important part of it.
I want to say one thing about that before I move on to the point I had in mind, if I don't forget it by the time I get there. And that is that spacewalk scene where she's sort of jetpacking toward the disturbance, and she does start, laughing. I think that's really the moment where I fell in love with Sonequa in this role and with Burnham, because you could tell that's what Star Trek is about. It's about that discovery, no pun intended. It's about that going where we haven't gone before. And just for it to manifest itself that way as her having fun, I thought was the best choice for the character, bar none.
Especially Burnham. Sorry,
I hate you.
I don't want to be a male sexist jerk right now, but the close-ups when they show her eyes, she's got the best eyes in television. They're just hypnotic. And so when she's in that suit and she's looking at the HUD display and everything, I just love those scenes. I could pause that and have it as my wallpaper. She's just beautiful.
So going back to the point I was going to make originally, it's like the people who complain about her crying too much. I'm over that. I'm sorry, but I've been over it since day one because this is a human who doesn't know how to human yet. Not fully.
Yep.
So while Discovery is the name of the ship and it's their job to discover things, the discovery to this series, for me, and I've said this since day one on Discovering Trek, is Burnham discovering her humanity along this journey. And part of that is learning how to be a human among humans. Mm-hmm. And that's still a challenge for her. And I think that that's important. She doesn't have control of all these emotions. And honestly, what human does? I mean, I cry at coffee commercials, for God's sake. It's like, or a story on like Good Morning America where somebody does something nice for dogs. I'm like, oh my God, that was so nice. She's human. Let her have the emotions. So that sort of, ridiculous argument that she cries too much is just something I've always hated.
Yeah, I do remember that I was complaining about that for a little while, but you're right. It is something that, looking at it as she's been trying to suppress her emotions most of her life. And she doesn't know how to deal with them when they come on as strong as they do. So it makes perfect sense. So I'm over that part as well. Absolutely.
So since we've entered into that discussion, let's talk about why she did that. And that's because she was rescued by Sarek as a child. And that's another thing that sent people into an uproar. Sarek doesn't have a daughter. Well, you're right. Technically, he doesn't have a daughter.
Right.
He has a foster daughter.
Exactly.
I mean, that's just the most Vulcan thing ever. You're right. I do not have a daughter. I thought that was an interesting choice at the time, but I really liked the way it's played out. And I really loved the casting of James Frain as Sarek because I thought that he just inhabited the role beautifully.
He really did. I remember seeing him when soon I watched True Blood, and I loved him in that role too because he was a whack job in True Blood. But to see him as Sarek was great. Now, I will say, looking at it through two different veils, like I said at the beginning when we started recording, is I look at the role of Sarek and the whole having a daughter/foster daughter, but he never has one. He never talked about it. I do like how they wrapped that thread up later on down the series with Discovery and how that they had to keep it top secret because of control and all that stuff. So I do like how they finally did answer that piece of oh my God, I'm thinking, what's the retro canon? I can't think of what it's called right now.
Retcon?
Retcon, thank you. Sorry, I got most of it right.
You said both of the words. You just didn't make a shorter version of it.
See, it's been a while since I've recorded. So I did like that, and he is great. I mean, right from the beginning, I thought he was a good Sarek, and he did Sarek proud. He did Mark proud by what he did in this role. And even though we're only talking about the Vulcan Hello right now, I'm really kind of bummed that we have not seen him anymore in subsequent seasons.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I like how much we see him in this season, quite honestly. Mm-hmm. Lethe, which happens later in season 1, I think it's episode 8, is probably one of my favorite Discovery episodes.
Great.
Written
Great
by
episode.
the fantastic Ted Sullivan.
Yep.
And by Joe Menosky from Voyager fame, among other things. But I think that this Sarek is, I hate to say this because it's going to make it sound like I don't like Mark Leonard, but this Sarek seems a little more likable in a few ways and completely unlikable in others.
Yeah, I think that might be because we didn't get to see enough of Mark Leonard's Sarek over the years. Yeah. We only saw him in 1 episode and 2 movies briefly. I mean, so we didn't get to really see it. I think this allowed the character to grow more even if people were pulling their hair out over certain things about it, I really think that this was a way for a Trek legend to really grow in the scope of his character. And I think that Frayne did a great job of it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about really the pivotal moment in this episode. We all know that war is brewing. We all know that Klingons are going to start some stuff, but Burnham essentially mutinies against her captain to try to give the Klingons a Vulcan Hello, which is essentially to punch him in the mouth first because the Klingons respect violence.
Mm-hmm.
And she turns on her captain. She still not quite sure how she learned the Vulcan nerve pinch, but that's another story for another time. But she essentially tries to pull an end run on Georgiou, and it doesn't go so well for her.
No, I'm not really sure I liked how quickly that all occurred. Now, we could blame Sarek for that happening because he's the one who told her what the Vulcans did in the past when they were attacked by the Klingons and the ship was destroyed, and then they decided that was never going to happen again, so when they ran into the Klingons again, they attacked. So it was kind of Sarek planted the idea, and he did say that you weren't going to like this idea, so I'll give him the credit for that. But then it just seemed that it was like instantaneous, like that's exactly what she was going to do, and to hell with the relationship that she's had with the captain and her crew over the last 7 years. That was one part of the episode I was like, oh, I don't know if that's something I agree with.
No, I'm right there with you. I think that it's weird advice for an ambassador to give, period, regardless of whether he's her foster father, stepfather, or whatever.
And I'll add to that, even someone who he knows because he raised her can have issues with
impulsiveness
and acting on emotions that she doesn't necessarily understand or have control over. Yeah. So, she got daddy issues.
Who among us doesn't? It's an interesting choice because Georgiou has essentially been sort of another mother figure in her life. I mean, other than Amanda, Grayson, Sarek's wife, Georgiou has helped her in an important, era of her development as a human. So I think it's even more of a betrayal in that sense.
Perfect word.
And I think that Georgiou not only feels that way, but I'm sure Michael does too, because she doesn't want to do this.
Yeah, and
she feels it's the only way to save everybody.
Betrayal is such a great word, Bill, because you can see it in Georgiou's face when she comes out of the ready room when she's regained consciousness with the phaser. She can't believe that her first officer just did this, and it's so illogical for her to make that move, but at the same time, it's based on something that a logical Vulcan told her about. It's a catch-22, I think, for her.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
I don't know.
So they are set upon a course that they cannot come back from. Mm-hmm. These events are happening, whether they want them to or not. The only question now is, will they survive them? Right. Shortly after that giant beacon goes off, blinding everybody and their mother, Klingon ships start coming in.
Let me
that
say
scene. Yeah, that scene with all the Klingon ships and the Shenzhou.
Yeah,
is like, oh bleep.
Not only is it oh bleep to just see the scope, and that's what I talked about at the beginning, the scope of what we're gonna see. I gotta say, and they've been doing it ever since, I freaking love the way that ships come out of warp in New Trek. I love the noise it makes, and I love how they just like, those inertial dampeners are working overtime when those things come out of warp. I just love the way it looks. And here's another thing that I didn't realize until just the other day when I watched this. When I was out in Hollywood and we watched it, they did the first 2 episodes without a break. So it wasn't a cliffhanger like this was. So when they all warped in and then it just zoomed out and you saw the Shenzhou with 50 or 60 Klingon ships staring down at her, and it ended, I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. I didn't realize that was the end of the episode 1.
That's amazing that they edited it together as
they really did a great
2-hour movie for you guys. That's awesome.
Yep.
I did not have that experience, but that's just me.
Yeah, it was just you because everybody else was.
And wow. Wow. I think we have to, we're making a big mistake if we don't talk about Saru.
Oh, I was going to be talking about him. Oh, yeah.
Obviously, he's we've come to learn he's my favorite character in Discovery. I have a special connection to Saru, but Saru kind of, this phase of his life in Star Trek is a very different character. We've never seen a character, that's been competent and afraid of everything. We've seen somebody like Reg Barkley, who his competency has been questionable at times.
Right.
But ultimately he's a good officer. But Saru is, the second officer of this vessel, the science officer.
Fantastic officer.
And he's got spidey sense.
He does. And we actually see that spidey sense, which was kind of, at the first time I saw it, I'm like, what the heck was that? Is that a glitch in the show or something? It was kind of cool. One of the things I love about Saru, and we talked about this before the show even aired, I could tell that Saru was going to be my Odo of this show.
Yeah.
I really thought he was going to be. So he's got Odo from Deep Space Nine in his character. And I love the McCoy Spock headbutting between him and Burnham in this episode. I really thought it was done without making it an in-your-face bonk bonk on the head relationship. And I thought it really worked. Doug Jones, he is just, not only is he one of the best human beings on the face of this earth, he is a damn good actor. He does so much covered in pounds and pounds of latex, and you never get to see the real him. And he makes this character emotional, believable, wonderful, and he continues to be my favorite character on Star Trek Discovery.
I have to say, everybody, from Giorgio to Burnham to Saru to Kuvma to Laurel to Vogue, Son of Nan, they're all perfectly cast. And I'm not just saying that in hindsight, but if you look at the way these characters interact and how easily these people fall into those characters, they clearly were the perfect choices for these roles, especially Sonequa Martin Green.
Yeah.
I don't think that can be, overstated, because she truly makes this show what it is.
I can see her, even though it's gonna last 5 seasons, so it's gonna be longer than the original series. She is going to be remembered as as like William Shatner is to TOS, and Patrick Stewart is, what every captain has been to each of the series. She is the face of Discovery. She is the face of Star Trek for the modern age, to be honest. I don't think that when Discovery came out and then the other shows, even when Picard came out, I still think Sonequa was the torchbearer for Star Trek. And I think it's something that she recognizes and she is very proud of. And even though Discovery's going to end, I still think she's going to have that, I don't know what the word is, but she's still going to have that importance for her show as all those other people that I mentioned a minute ago.
I do not disagree with you one bit. I think that she is going to be looked to for a long time as an important and pivotal person in the Star Trek universe, simply for her portrayal of Burnham and what she brought to the franchise. Plus, when you couple it with the fact that she is genuinely one of the kindest and nicest people we've ever met in Star Trek, personally, I think that says a lot. She's not just at these signings, with her head down, just signing stuff and handing it back. She engages with fans.
I made her cry.
And I think that's, yeah. I mean, she genuinely listens to them and actively listens. And I cannot say enough great things about Sonequa.
That's something that I also love about, not only about Sonequa and Doug, but other people that have been involved in Discovery and New Trek. They're part of the social media age, which nobody really was before because it wasn't really around. Of course, Decay's got this huge following, but it wasn't around when they were doing the shows. They engage with social media, and they're excited to be there to meet the fans that love the franchise so much. And I think that's something that stood out to me immediately when we went to the first convention where Discovery people were, is how excited they all were. They were just as excited as we were to be there as you could imagine. And I think that that's something that has continued to this day since that first time we saw everybody at a convention.
And we like to look at Memory Alpha before we talk about an episode, and this one is no exception. Something I didn't know until reading this in Memory Alpha was that the cast members playing the Shenzhou bridge crew were supplied with bios that David Mack had written about their roles. I had no idea. I know he's done some stuff with Prodigy, but I think it's really cool that he got brought in to flesh out some of those character backstories for those actors, so they had something to work with.
Yeah, that's kind of neat.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, he wrote what was the name of the novel? I think it was Desperate Hours was the tie-in novel that came out right around the time. So he had all of their stories kind of started. So they were handed that stuff on the set to look over so that they kind of had an idea what they were going to be portraying, and that's kind of cool. I love David Mack's fantastic anyway, so that's kind of cool that he's involved in it like that.
Now, before this episode ever aired, there was so much drama going on in the production of this series. Lots of drama. Originally, Brian Fuller hired to create and show run Star Trek Discovery.
Yep.
Before the show ever premiered, he was replaced.
Yes.
He was essentially told, thanks, but no. Because he really had way too much going on, especially with American Gods filming, I think, at the studio next door. However, during pre-production, Fuller and CBS clashed over who should direct the episode. CBS wanted David Semel. Fuller didn't think he was the right guy, so he approached multiple alternative directors, including Edgar Wright. CBS wound up hiring David Semel against Fuller's wishes, according to Entertainment Weekly. I had no idea. Wow.
We've talked a little bit about the drama that took place before the show even aired, and the internal battles that were taking place about what they started that they wouldn't be able to back off of because of all the time, money, and stuff invested in how this was going to be. You don't see that come across on the screen, which is, I think, the most important thing. Regardless of all the stuff going on in the writer's room or in the executive offices, once the cameras are rolling, that all has to go away, and there can't be any problem. And we, any good show is going to do that, but they're able to deal with it in a pretty exceptional way, I think.
Well, and it makes me wonder, I mean, was that happening really part of the original problem with some of what people complained about with Discovery? Should it have been set in this time frame that it was?
Exactly. That's the main thing I was talking about.
Shouldn't it have been after the TNG era or something in the future? They'll say he stepped down, but let's be honest, he was fired.
Yeah. Yep.
It's rare that somebody steps down from a show gig, especially one that's Star Trek, one that he lobbied to create for so long. But it being what it is, apparently he wanted initially a serialized show at first, kind of like American Horror Story.
Yep.
He then wanted, from what I understand, and this is all like fifth and sixth hand, he wanted the first season of Discovery to be 10 episodes in the Mirror Universe, not like 3.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which I think would have been an even bigger mistake than going there in the first season.
I love the Mirror Universe, and that would have been way too much.
But it seemed like that there was just a lot of conflict that we don't normally hear about at the start of a Star Trek episode or Star Trek show. And you're right. The fact that you really don't see that on screen in the pilot is really kind of flabbergasting to me, because it shouldn't be as good as it is, knowing everything that was going on.
It's a credit to the cast and the art that they perform, I think.
Well, and David Semel, the director,
and
Brian Fuller didn't want,
and the people behind all the people behind the camera, all the people that weren't involved in all that infighting, who were doing the show because it's their passion and it's how they make their living. So yeah, absolutely.
I have to say that we can't get out of talking in this episode without talking about the music and theme by Jeff Russo.
Yeah.
At first I wasn't sure how I felt about the Star Trek Discovery opening theme. Now I actually kind of love it.
It's awesome. We hung out with him.
And my phone's ringing in the background.
Oh, okay. Is it the Discovery theme? Because that would have been kind of eerie. He does great. He does great work. And we've talked about it before. It's important that the music is a character in the show. And we're just talking about the opening credits right now, and it's fantastic. Star Trek has always been great with the strings. It's always been great with the percussion. And this is no different. It's subtle. And I know what you're going to say. The one thing that I don't love about the Discovery opening credit music is, in my opinion, and this is just me, and people can be mad at me, I feel that the Alexander Courage is shoehorned fanfare is shoehorned at the end, and it just doesn't fit there for me. That's just my opinion. I don't know if anybody agrees or disagrees, but other than that, it is fantastic music.
I don't agree with that at all. I think it's kind of emblematic of where Discovery fits in the timeline of Star Trek, because it comes in before that particular era, with the Tiboligo where no one has gone before, no man has gone before in that case in the 60s. But I think it's I think the Discovery theme, at least to me, represents what occurs before we become familiar with that fanfare.
Yeah.
So yeah, I personally don't agree with that, but I get that you see it that way.
Now, I do agree that it's in the right spot of the opening credits because it's when they show created by Gene Roddenberry. So it's that callback to the original series. I just feel that with how the music flows during the first minute and a half, those four bars of music seem to be disjointed from the rest of the theme, at least to me.
Okay. Well, I'd agree with you, but we'd both be wrong. Did I say that out loud?
You did. You did.
So I remember when this episode ended on CBS that Sunday night, I think it was.
I don't remember. I saw it a few nights before.
Shut up. And because only the first episode was airing on CBS, but both episodes were premiering that night.
Yep.
So you had to jump on over real quick to CBS All Access to see the rest of it if you didn't want anything spoiled.
Right.
And I remember going from CBS to CBS All Access, and the episode wasn't there. And I'm like trying to refresh. And I'm like, damn it, where's the episode? I had to, on my Fire TV, I had to exit the app. I had to force stop it. I had to clear the cache. I had to reopen it. And finally it showed up. But I thought that was interesting. The way that they would tease, say, oh, if you want to watch the rest, head on over to CBS All Access today.
Weren't there also horrible problems with the first couple of weeks where the episode was just like fail, and because of the load, so many people were watching it that it would just like crash?
Partly, they had a problem with a third-party content distribution network. So some people had no problems playing it, while others had significant problems playing
okay. Yep.
But yeah, they kind of worked that out. I think maybe they used Akamai as their CDN. Sorry, we're getting into nerd speak for everybody that's tuned out. We'll just call it the platform where the videos actually play from.
There you go.
So yeah, it was not the easiest of starts for Star Trek Discovery. But like we've said, it's not on the screen that way. What's on the screen is damn good. And this is a first episode of a series is damn good.
And again, to go back to what I said before, looking at it through, this is the first time I'm seeing it, and now looking at it through watching 4 seasons, it holds up unbelievably well. I mean, probably the best premiere of any Star Trek show in terms of how it holds up when you look at the scope of an entire run of a series. It is breathtaking. It's great. The characters have not changed that much in the way that they are and the way that they act. And I think it's a great jumping off point for not only these 4 characters, or 2, because 2 of them die, jumping off for them for the rest of the series.
I agree with you completely. It's interesting to watch back this episode, knowing what we know now about Star Trek Discovery, and it's kind of cool to see where it all began and to know that these characters that we've grown to really, really appreciate started here in this spot, and they're already really good right there.
They are really good right there, right from the beginning. It's, we've talked about how season 1 of TNG and some aspects of season 1 of Deep Space Nine are just kind of like, oh boy, there really isn't that with this season, with the character growth and the character development that we saw, especially I think TNG season 1.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Yeah,
it's everybody's solid, and well, I wonder what happens after this, Dad.
So I want to find out. I'll bet you there's going to be some galactic thing that could like destroy humanity and everything in the universe, and then it'll happen again, and then it'll happen again.
Happen again.
Sorry.
I know we're not talking about the second episode, Battle at the Binary Stars yet.
No.
But I have to say that scene where she's in the brig and the ship just disintegrates around part of the brig and the force field goes up. That is some amazing visual effects.
It is amazing. Speaking of visual effects and things, I do like how this takes place before TOS, and I love how some people like to just lose their bleep over the fact that there's holographic communicators in this era. We see the captain talking to the admiral by a hologram, and the technology that wasn't around with TOS, we're now seeing in a pre-TOS series, and I love to laugh at those kind of things. I really do.
I'm okay with it. I mean, when people would start complaining about the ship looks too modern, too technological, it's like you can't really. That's it. It was 2020 or 2017 when this came out. You can't make it look like 1966 because people just aren't going to take it seriously. And then people go, what about all those amazing fan films? I'm like, they're great. They're amazing. They look wonderful, but they're supposed to be set in that TOS era on purpose.
Yep.
We just have to agree that technology, both in computers and in producing television, has changed markedly over almost 60 years.
A little bit.
Of course, it's going to look different. It has to look different. And a visual refresh is not a bad thing.
No, it's not. One of the things that I look at when a movie, like I'll use a weird example right now, like the Godzilla remakes. Yeah. If you can get a movie like Godzilla where there's a monster going through a city and you can't tell that it's a special effect, that's a good thing. And that's what Discovery does. You can't tell that these are green screens. You can't tell that it's special effects and that it's post-production stuff added in. That's what makes a good show's special effects and stuff like that so good. And Discovery is an A+ in what they do in that aspect.
There may come a day someday in the future where those effects may not look like they hold up. We don't know. Because at the time we thought, in the 70s that the stuff in the 60s looked pretty darn good. Mm-hmm. It's, with technology and everything evolving that we look at it now and go, that looks like styrofoam.
Yeah.
Things are what they are. Everything will evolve. Everything will improve. The only thing I'm confident is that people will look back on this episode of Star Trek Discovery decades from now and go, damn, that's pretty good. I have to see how this resolves.
Absolutely agree. 100%.
And that's how this is supposed to work, quite honestly. I'm not pleased that Star Trek Discovery is ending. I had hoped it would at least get 7 seasons. I know that's rare in streaming these days. But when I look at some other shows that just don't seem to go away, I thought that maybe it would beat the odds. So I'm glad for 5 seasons. There are 5 seasons we didn't have before. 5 seasons we'll get to endlessly rewatch, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's something that we need to have an episode of the podcast on to talk about the end of Discovery. I think I'm sad to see it end. I think it was a self-inflicted wound, so to speak, and that's something that I would want to get into in much more detail if we ever decide to do an episode on it. I am very sorry to see it go. I think certain things could have been done in different ways that maybe it would have stayed longer. But I'm glad that they have decided to go out on a high note and that it's not going to be something that was just canceled because it was horrible and nobody cared about it anymore. So I think that's something that we definitely want to do an episode of at some point. Maybe when season 5 is about to start, or maybe when it ends. I don't know.
I don't know. We certainly can cross that bridge when we get there. We still need to finish season 4 of Discovering Trek.
That's true.
At some point.
Yeah, maybe we can do that for the 5 episodes in a row. No.
Well, in fairness, our world did unravel during that 4th season.
A lot of unraveling.
We're still kind of recovering from it. So
yes.
We promise we'll get back to that at some point. But I feel like that I may have to download Discovery for the plane, quite honestly, to go to Vegas, because I feel like I need to rewatch the first season at least now.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's good.
Because that's like I said, some pretty damn good television.
I've been missing me some Lorca, to tell you the truth.
Jason Isaacs.
He's so
Yeah,
good.
but you're just such a Mirror Universe fanboy.
No, but I am a Mirror Universe fan, and I do like some of the things they did in the Mirror Universe with this in the first season, but I just love Isaacs. I think he does great. I loved him in Harry Potter, and it's such a different character for him here. And then to find out who he is and what he is, I just thought it was great. Too bad we haven't seen him again either.
Well, and I don't think we will.
I doubt it.
People are like, where's Prime Lorca? Where's Prime Lorca? I'm of the opinion he's dead.
He'd be dead.
I know what happened in the novel. I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm of the opinion he's probably dead.
Yeah.
At least that's the shortest answer. And now that, unless we see him in Strange New Worlds, which I don't think we will.
No, I don't think we would.
I'm forced to conclude that it'll never be touched on again.
That's okay. I'm fine with it. Yeah.
You know what else I'm fine with, Dan?
Oh, I think I know. I think I got 5 things I could tell you about it.
5 reasons, and that's our friends, the band 5 Year Mission. It's been a long time since we talked about them, but you hear their music whenever we decide to actually produce an episode of Trek Geeks. Wow, did I say that out loud?
Yeah, you did.
But we honestly couldn't have done it without them. They have been so key to helping us find our sound and what this why people like the podcast. That it's the perfect music for Trek Geeks and for the other shows on the network. So we want everyone to go out to 5yearmission.net, get all those CDs. If we've learned anything with the cancellation of Star Trek Prodigy, it's that physical media is important.
Yes.
Nobody can ever take it away from you once you have it, unless you borrow it or unless you loan it to somebody like Dan and he never gives it back. But
that's right.
once you have that physical media, it's yours. So go on out to 5yearmission.net, get those CDs, ship them to your house, become a huge fan of this band, because I tell you what, they're doing one song for each episode of the original Star Trek, and it is awesome, awesome stuff.
It is awesome.
5yearmission.net.
You will grow to love it just as much as I've grown to love Bill, if you can believe that. It may take a while, but you're going to love him. You know what else I love is this one character, Bill. I gotta talk about it. I haven't done this in a while, and it feels great. When the Klingons needed a beacon of light, he was there. When they needed something to fight for and bring together warring houses, he was there. When they needed to bring back Klingon opera, he was there. When the sounds of glorious Klingon music needed to be heard throughout the quadrant, he was there to lead his people back to the true meaning of Kahless, for he is Farkuvma. And then he was killed by Burnham.
Wow. Wow.
He did all those great things. Farkuvma. And then...
I've got a number of problems here. The first of which is your butchering of Kahless. Because remember, Shazad put an H on the end there just to, for some reason. And then Farkuvma.
We come in peace.
We drum in peace.
Very nice. Very nice. See, you helped with a Farkism, and now it's just that much better.
I feel so dirty.
Congratulations.
I really do. That's all I can say. Farkisms. Didn't miss those.
Oh, yeah, you did. No, you probably listen to them all the time because you have the whole library.
No, I don't. So don't forget, of course, you too can support Trek Geeks and all our podcasts on the network by subscribing to us on Patreon. You get all kinds of perks. Dan, we put out a really special pin this year, which I thought was fantastic. We've had some shirts go out.
Yeah.
But through it all, we've had a bunch of great people standing behind us this whole way.
We really have, and we just cannot thank them enough for all their support and all their messages of love and everything that took place during the last several months when both you and I were kind of like neck deep in stuff. So thank you to all of those people. And I'm going to take a moment to thank our associate producers for Trek Geeks right now, because we are so very grateful for their support. And they are, as always, Vikram Bhatt, Chad Clark, Corey Clay, Brad DeMag, William Edward M. Jr., Brandon Everidge, Andy Fark, Kimberly Francis, Brian Hackwith, Jonathan Hamilton, Ryan Jeffs, John Krikorian, Sean Lynn, Rick Mason, Jamie McGregor, Ross McKinney, Aaron Mollenkoff, Helen Reed, Sarah Rutlinger, Tim Robertson, Desi Rogers, Greg Rozier, Eric Sakian, Adam Sanders, Tim Serdar, Heather Sohn, Blake Strike, I'm almost done, Lisa Tomlinson, Ron Robel, Kaylee Zawacki. I can't talk when I say her name. I just start smiling. And the I'm just going to say right now, Bill. I'm just going to say right out up front, the wonderful, the gracious, and the spectacular Connie Hutchins.
Wow. We get more superlatives. That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
All well-deserved for Connie, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, we want to thank our Trek Geeks producers for their support as well. They are Mike Bovia, Steve Bovia, Chaz Bradshaw, Kyle Castillo, Peter Craig, Andy Davenport, Craig Ewing, Jackie and Chris Hackney, Kimberly Hartman, David Hood, Lionel Marchand, Matt McGonigal, Jim McMahon, Darren Metcalf, Charlie Mulvey, Sean O'Halloran, Casey Pettit, Jamie Rogers, Casey Shafsky, Terry Shull, Jim Stoffel, Chris Trebuzio, Christina Werther, and the lovely and talented Jess Vashon. Dan, the senior producer of Trek Geeks, is the continuously cosmic Jude Tatman.
One of the highlights of my adult life was meeting that young man in England a few weeks back. What a fantastic guy. Jude, you were the highlight of the trip over there, over across the pond. I hope you're doing good. He is continuously cosmic, I must say.
Absolutely. I'm just sorry he had to be exposed to being around you in person. I'm really sorry, Jude.
I did no such thing. You too can become a producer on Trek Geeks, and it is so easy to do. Head on over to patreon.com/Trek Geeks for all the details.
Dan, of course, for more great Star Trek discussion, we want everyone to check out the other podcasts here at Trek Geeks. We have so many fantastic shows that are just amazing. They're run by fans who just want to celebrate Star Trek and Gene's vision. You can find all our podcasts at trekgeeks.com/listen.
It's an easy place to go to. I go to it all the time. Trek Geeks. No one talks Trek like we do.
No one. And of course, for all the news on all the Star Trek show, please visit our great friends at treknews.net. Dan, we'll be back next week with something.
Doesn't matter what it is. We're going to be here. I'm looking forward to it. Huh.
Yeah, but for now, this has been episode number 301 of the Trek Geeks podcast. We do hope you all live long and prosper.
Coconut.
Wow. I wonder, can you open a coconut with one of those newfangled batleth things?
No, but I can with Klingon teeth.
Okay.
Music for Trek Geeks is provided by 5 Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. Trek Geeks is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
Hi, it's nice to meet you. My name is Bill.
Hi, hey, Bill. My name's Dan. What are we doing here again? I don't have any idea.
It's a Shriners meeting.
Oh, well, great. I got a Mike's to drink while we're at the Shriner. So maybe it's a Shriner Mike's. Is that like a Shiner Bock? I'm really not sure.
Have you ever had a Shiner Bock?
I've not. I've heard of it, but I've not had one.
You are missing out. It's a fantastic beer.
Okay. I'm not a beer person, but I'm willing to try it. I won't drink Guinness, that's for sure.
It's a different kind of beer. It's a Bock. I mean, it's darker. The Shiner is nice and light.
Is it a Daemon Bock? Sorry.
I hate you. Now I know why we've only done one new episode this year.
Oh, sorry. Daemon Bock. Share a Frankie with his teeth.
Hello, Picard.
You killed my only son. Sorry.
I love how instantly when imitating the Ferengi, we all sound like we're trying to generate as much spit as possible. Hello, Picard.
We're like that animal in the Ice Age movies. Pine cones.
I'll take your word for that.
People listening know. The 4 that might be. That we have left.
The ones with kids, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Oh, anyway.
You watch, we're going to get a message from Darren Metcalf going, that movie rocks.
Oh, the first Ice Age is fantastic. I love it. It's very good. I think John Leguizamo was the voice of that critter. I forget. It's a sloth.
Okay.
Sid the sloth. Yes, he talks like that. Sid the sloth.
That's what you're going to sound like in about 10 years when you don't put your teeth in.
Okay. Well, I guess I get to look forward to that. Anyway.
I'm not wrong.
No, you're not. Not at all. I'm not arguing. Nope. Anyway.
That's a first.
That's first time for everything. Anyway, so how you been, bud? It's been a really interesting last quarter.
Let's just come right out and say it's been a shitty year.
Yeah, it really has.
Now, when last we recorded our 300th episode, I feel like that was, a year ago.
I don't even remember. Was it like in February, I think? February or March? I don't even remember.
Much later.
April?
It was like...
April?
Yeah.
April. What the hell is that?
April. Robert April. Love him in Strange
It's awesome. Yes. Okay.
You and I had designs to do many more episodes this year, like we always do.
Right.
But between life and family, and now me being essentially an unemployed jerk. Actually, our 300th episode was released on May 1st, by the way.
Wow. We went okay. Yeah. So we've done 3 episodes this year because we did the Trek Talks interviews. But that doesn't count because we didn't really do anything. All you had to do was press the button. But it counts as a number on the list. So, and then
I'm talking new episodes. I don't count.
This is our second one of the year.
It's almost July.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
But you know what? I gotta say, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you know what's great? I was thinking of this the other day, and I'm very sincere when I say this because we've had a lot going on. I think of that we've only done 1 episode so far in 2023, and yet we still have our Patreons and our followers and our listeners who continually send us messages saying, hope things are going well, hope things get better. I cannot say enough, and I'll say it when we do the actual recording and not here in the outtake, how much that means to me. That has been a shining beacon in what you have called already a shitty 2023.
Yeah, we're going to tag this episode as explicit.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm over, cleaning it up and bleeping it.
Yeah. With
the way 2023 is gone. No, I echo your sentiments 100%. I'm in complete agreement. You said it perfectly. It's, but I'm going to make this pledge right now. And you don't even know I'm going to say this.
Oh boy, here we go.
We're doing all new episodes every week until Vegas.
I think that's doable.
Now, there's no think about it. It's doable.
You're talking to me. I don't think so. It's doable.
You heard it here. You guys might want to clip that as like a ringtone or something.
I don't think.
Dancing. I don't think.
I do. I don't think I do. I am.
I don't think you do either.
Is there nothing more? Is this all? Sorry, I won't start quoting the motion picture.
Just shut up.
It's been a long time. I got a lot bottled up, ready to.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Getting from.
Wow, I can't believe you actually went. Anyway, so yes.
I kind of went there. I didn't really.
A little bit. Everybody was listening, was finishing the sentence for you with the same thing. I'm just going to tell you right that as I play with my fidget spinner. Right. I'm going to put that away now.
That sounded like silence in the podcast. People are going to go,
what is he doing? What's he
why
playing
are they not
with?
talking? Dan actually was spinning a fidget spinner.
Yeah, I found it in...
That tells you... Yeah, he values the Patreons, but he's playing with the fidget spinner while recording the damn podcast.
As weird as this may seem, I found it at my mom's condo when we were going through stuff.
Really?
Yeah. She probably had this. She probably used it for like a drink holder or something. No idea what it would have been, but yeah. So I'm like, okay, that's going to my desk.
Technically, it could work as like a lazy Susan. She could have put a small plate on there,
like
and
a
just
peanut,
rotated a meal around.
Yeah, probably. Oh goodness!
Like a little turntable for her dinner.
That's a small dinner for like a hummingbird.
No, I mean you put the plate on top.
Oh, I see. Yes, it will. Yeah, it would.
God, you were so
I thought
stupid.
You meant the little things on the end here, these parts, not the big center part. I see what you're
fucking idiot.
I say what you're saying. Boy, it's good to be back.
Yeah, tell me.
Every week you said, huh?
Joy. Every week.
Hey.
Tomorrow I get to have a follow-up endoscopy.
I feel like I'm having one right now.
Bend over, I'll show you.
Well, I'm sure it'll be fine.
Wait, wrong
Direction, pal.
wrong direction.
Jeez.
That was a quote from Christmas Vacation.
Yes.
For those of you wondering why I said that to Dan. Yeah, so I get to have a fall. I mean, my voice has really sounded kind of weak and gravelly, and like I'm losing it for a good 8 months.
Years. Oh, I'm sorry. 8 months?
Wow, F you.
8 months, yes. And you know what? It's funny that you say that, and I'm being serious. I have noticed that. The graveliness. You sound like a Gorn every once in a while.
Thank you. I think.
I don't know. Anyway, that's okay.
Or I sound like I'm losing my voice, or I sound like I'm going through puberty at times.
It's time to change.
It's time to rearrange.
Yeah.
Sha-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Sha-na-na-na-na. Yeah. Sorry, a little Brady Bunch there. I'm sure that most people won't know what the hell that is. There will be a few of you who do.
Yes.
And I know who you are.
Yes, and I do as well.
But it's silent acid reflux.
Ugh.
And it's causing esophagitis. The worst part of this, dude, is that I can't sing in the car.
Well, your wife might think that's the best part of this.
No, she doesn't care either way.
Right.
But like if I'm driving down the road alone or whatever, and I put on some tunes, you want to be able to sing along with some 80s jams, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Voice doesn't work.
Maybe my brother-in-law will get that then, because his singing voice is just awful. I gotta say, it's just, it's heinous. It really is.
Maybe you'll get it.
No, I'm good.
People won't have to hear you talk.
No, they can't. They miss it. They've missed it so much. They're so happy right now. People are driving down the street with a big smile on their face and going, "There he is. There's my Farkism."
Yeah.
Oh, anyway.
Sure they are. So yeah, all new episodes till Vegas.
Okay, I can do that. It's like what, 3 weeks away, 4 weeks away?
Five
episodes. My God,
we are 5 weeks till Vegas.
Do we have 5 episodes worth of Star Trek material to talk about?
Well, not on Paramount Plus, we don't.
Oh, snap!
Hey-o!
Bazinga! Yeah,
Bazinga!
5 episodes. That's great. Of course, one of them will be our world famous annual Vegas episode. Will we pick an episode that's kind of like Vegas / gambling / fun discussion like we've done in the past?
I have an idea for that this year?
Yeah, but I'll have to look at the spreadsheet to see what it is, because the spreadsheet's pretty messed up. We're supposed to be on episode like 360 right now. We're on 302.
We only do like 40 episodes a year.
Yes.
So, I mean, on a good year.
On a good year, yes.
On a good year.
Good year. Tires.
There's something else I was going to bring up. So that means we're just a little over 5 weeks away from Fan Geeks Party 2023.
That's right. Oh, I cannot wait for that.
Millennium Fandom.
It is going to be so incredible. So incredible.
Do you know what I'm going to do right now?
Here we go.
Or you know what I think we should do?
What should we do?
I think that before we post it on social media, we should announce the third guest here in the outtake and not say a word about it after that for a couple of weeks. So whoever gets this far knows who the third guest is going to be.
Oh, I kind of like that.
If they've turned it off because of your mellifluous tones,
come on now,
they'll never know. But the thing we have to ask people is, please don't post about it.
Yes, that's very important. Yep.
So we're going to ask you all just to do us a favor, because we're going to conduct a little experiment here to see who knows. And if you know, you can, comment on the episode or tweet at us on Twitter or whatever with just, I know.
Oh, yeah. Hashtag I know. Yep.
Hashtag I know.
Yep.
Okay. So that's the deal we're going to make with you all right now. If you hear this, that's what just please don't share who the third guest is.
Okay. I like
okay.
It. Yep.
So obviously our first 2 guests are Bonnie Gordon.
Awesome.
Star Trek
I cannot
Prodigy.
wait to hang out with her.
Great. Bonnie was at our booth all year.
Yep.
Or all weekend last year at STLV.
Yep. It's gonna be
of course,
awesome.
the unpredictable and wonderful John Billingsley from Star Trek Enterprise.
I can wait to hang out with him. He's kind of a turd. He's one of our best friends, though. Seriously.
He really is. He's become a dear friend over the years.
Really
and Dan, our third guest for Fan Geeks Party 2023 who will officially announce on social media in a few weeks. I'll give you the honor, buddy. Go ahead.
Oh, no.
Nope.
All right.
No, go ahead.
You loved her in 3 seasons of Star Trek Picard. We're going to start with that hint. She was in 3 seasons of Star Trek Picard. She is the one, the only Michelle Hurd. Michelle Hurd will be at the Fan Geeks Party 2023 during our live podcast at Millennium Fandom. It's going to be awesome. She's excited. We're excited. I might pass out. I'm going to drink.
So that's the news, guys. Please, again, don't post about it on social media. If you're going to reply to us or just tweet us, I know, or reply to the episode, say hashtag I know. We'll know that you got it, but let's, for those people who may not get to the podcast right away, let's not ruin it for them. We know on the down low. How's that?
We don't want to put the cart in front of the horse, should we say? I got it right. I didn't screw it up by saying like the carrot on the stick first. I didn't screw it up. I'm very happy. I'm still going to pass out. I'm still going to drink.
You're smart. You make things go. Speaking of ready to go, you want to do some news and then we'll do the show?
Let's do some news and then let's do the show. Yo.
All right. I'm going to mute and clear my throat and then we'll go.
All right.